the facts on the ground, have been targeted and arrested. U.S. citizens, including children, have been traumatized and detained. This escalation of violence is targeted and intentional and premeditated. The Trump administration is following a playbook: cause chaos, create fear and confusion, make it seem like peaceful protesters are a mob by firing gas pellets and tear gas canisters at them. Why? To create the pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act so that he can send military troops to our city. He wants to justify and normalize the presence of armed soldiers under his direct command. I want to take you through the steps that he's taken to follow the playbook and show how it is playing out real time here in Illinois. When I first heard reports of Trump's plan to send armed military troops into our streets, more than 100 elected officials, business leaders, clergy, law enforcement, educators, and community organizations gathered on August 25th to send an unequivocal message to Donald Trump. We don't want troops on the streets of Chicago. There was never an insurrection or an invasion on the ground that justified the deployment of the military to our American city. We stood out there on a beautiful day at River Point Park to make that point. Donald Trump's deranged depiction of Chicago as a hellhole, a war zone, and the worst and most dangerous city in the world was just complete BS. He clearly has decided to declare war on a great American city that has the lowest homicide rate in 60 years, in a state that has record employment and near record tourism. And he's done it for some unspoken reason. I spent the days and weeks following that out and about in our communities, in Bronzeville, in Austin, in Little Village, Berwyn, South Shore, and others, walking and talking and listening to real Chicagoans and local business owners, something Donald Trump, Greg Bovino, Tom Homan, and Kristi Noem have never bothered to do. No insurrections, no invasions. The folks in the neighborhoods do not want armed troops marching in their streets. When it comes to public safety, they want civilian law enforcement when they need them, and jobs, and after-school programs for kids in the neighborhoods. They do not want Donald Trump to occupy their communities. Then the Trump invasion began. Since ICE and CBP announced their operations on September 8th, our people have been subjected to violence, intimidation, and harassment. They have struck fear in our communities, including notably fear in the hearts of U.S. citizens. Trump and the thuggery that his agents have brought has actively made us less safe. Less than a week later, on September 12th, ICE shot and killed a man in Franklin Park, a nearby suburb of Chicago. His name was Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. Reports say that he had just dropped his kids off at daycare and was headed to work. Shortly after that incident, ICE issued a statement justifying the killing, saying that the federal agent was seriously injured, sustained multiple injuries, and was dragged a significant distance. Immediately, we were left with more questions than answers. And frankly, the story just didn't add up. I demanded a full accounting into the facts of the situation. The community was rightfully distraught. Even Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum demanded answers. The facts are coming out, and they are raising even more questions. The Chicago Sun-Times obtained body camera footage from Franklin Park PD. The agent said on camera his injuries were nothing major, and that he was dragged a little bit. As a reminder, DHS said that the agent was seriously injured, sustained multiple injuries, and was dragged a significant distance. His children, Silverio's children, have now been left without a father, and they and the public deserve to know the truth. There's been zero accountability or transparency from ICE or the administration. Last week, federal agents dressed in camouflage gear conducted a military-style raid on an apartment building in South Shore, a neighborhood of Chicago. They brought Black Hawk military helicopters and more than 100 agents in full tactical gear. Even though it was supposedly a very dangerous and important mission, they brought dozens of cameras and set them up so that they could film their attack on the building in HD for social media. See for yourself. So even though they documented the raid, their propaganda video conveniently left out important facts. In the dead of night, and seemingly for the cameras, armed federal agents emerged from the Black Hawk helicopters, rappelling onto the roof of that apartment building. According to media reports, the agents ransacked multiple apartments and detained almost everyone in the building, including U.S. citizens and children who had done nothing wrong. Witnesses told reporters that federal officers zip-tied the hands of people, including children and seniors. Some, including U.S. citizens, were detained in the back of vans for hours. Seemingly proud of this shameful treatment of innocent people, they recorded it, and Kristi Noem posted the video, bragging about the operation. Since we sat through that propaganda, I think it's important to hear directly from members of the community who experienced this takeover of the building.
Neighbors like Ebony Watson says they ducked for cover as they heard several flashbangs go off.
They was terrified. The kids was crying, people was screaming. They looked very distraught. I was out there crying when I seen the little girl come around the corner. Because they was bringing the kids out too. Had them zip tied to each other. That's all I kept asking. Where's the morality? Where's the human? One of them literally laughed. He was standing right here. He said, them kids.
Watson says budget trucks and military-style vans were used to separate parents from their children. Other neighbors say...
All right, let's move on. No one can hear it, although ABC 7 gets credit.
They had a big 15-inch chainsaw with a round blade on it, cutting this fence down. We're under siege. We're being invaded by our own military.
The FBI did confirm this morning that they did help the U.S. Border Patrol carry out a targeted immigration enforcement operation in this area, and they say they have been supporting these efforts at the direction of the U.S. Attorney General.
Imagine being a child awakened in the middle of the night by a Black Hawk helicopter landing on your roof. Imagine an armed stranger entering your home and forcibly removing you from your bed, zip-tying your hands, separating you from your family, and detaining you in a dark van for hours. This didn't happen in some faraway authoritarian regime. It happened right here in Chicago, right here in the United States of America. The reports of excessive use of force against children is unconscionable. And the way many innocent residents who lived in the building were treated is appalling. In response, I've directed the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services and the Illinois Department of Human Services to provide support and to evaluate the treatment of the children who were traumatized. If they find suspected abuse or neglect by federal agents, the state will be taking every possible action to hold those individuals accountable. Now, I'd like to turn to some examples of the more egregious actions that we've seen from ICE, CBP, and the other federal agents. Over the past several weeks, it has been made abundantly clear that Trump's invasion force is not going after the worst of the worst, like he said.